Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Jenny. I am a customer success manager and ergonomist here at TuMeke. I'm really excited to host this series of webinars where we have esteemed guests from amazing companies across different industries share some of their insights and expertise with the community. This is our second one here, and we have a really exciting presentation coming for you today. First off, though, I just want to run some housekeeping. So if you have any questions, please put it in our, I believe it's a Q&A box on Zoom, and Mary will address it at the very end. And if you can, please stay till the end. And we also have a very short poll for you to complete as well, just to get your insights. But just wanted to introduce our guest for today. We have Mary Lucot, who is a global occupational hygiene expert at Sanofi. She's prepared a really information-packed presentation on how she has simplified ergonomics at her company. As we all know, creating an ergonomics program can be daunting, multifaceted, and often unwieldy. And Mary will discuss how to identify and prioritize key components of an ergo program, utilize a team to help out, and she will also share some examples of how her team shares best practices with one another to collaborate on ideas and stay informed on different projects. So I'm going to hand the mic over to Mary. And yeah, thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Jenny. I'm really excited to be here today, so thanks for having me. And as Jenny mentioned, we're going to be talking about ergonomics, how to prioritize, have an effective program, and how do you then share across multiple ones. So I will start to share my slides. So hopefully everyone will be able to see them fine. Um, and we'll get right started. So what I will start off with, I don't know why okay, here we go. In our company, we always work to have a safety moment in each of our meetings. So I wanted to do that today too. And just to share an ergonomic one, I think all of us, no matter what part of the ergonomic team you have been in or done, you might have done something like this where we really want to make the situation help for the individual. And sometimes it doesn't have to be overly technical. And I thought this was a kind of a cute thing for ergonomics for today to kind of get us started.
I love that cartoon.
So to get into the kind of the meat of things for our ergonomic program, what we have is a global standard that helps our sites really manage what does it mean to have an ergonomic program at their site level, what elements need to be included. So one of the main things is we want every site to have an ergonomics coordinator, so a person that's running the program, making sure that we're making improvements, looking at our risks, our point person for that site, which is really helpful. It can be an HSE person. Sometimes it's within our occupational health group. So it's not indicated exactly who it has to be, just someone that has ergonomic training, interest, and obviously someone that really wants to promote the program is most important.
That's
And
so
then,
important too. I was going to say, because it's good to have someone have ownership over a program and to over at least a certain component, right? And to have someone who is excited about it, no matter what specific industry or background they're in, it can be really, really helpful. So definitely agree.
yeah, definitely. And just to know like kind of what is new and happening, it's nice to have someone that is kind of tracking that for the team, even as other people are helping out. And
Mm.
then ensuring that we really focus on the ergonomic prevention side and control side. So one of the things we really stress is prevention. So as most of us know that if we can catch something very early where people might say, oh, this tends to bother me after a certain point of time, much easier to make a change and not have a medical issue compared to if someone comes very late and there has to be surgery involved or something like that. It's much more difficult.
And costly too, I'm sure.
Yes, yes, exactly. And hard for the team, right? If you lose someone good on your team for a while, that's no fun. And then we do have a set of ergonomic risk assessments and types of assessment tools that people have available. So I'll talk about that a bit more later. And then also what type of awareness and trainings that you offer within your groups. So within our programs, we provide awareness essentially to everyone. So there's kind of a base level and understanding of importance of ergonomics, no matter what type of position they're in at the company. And then dedicated trainings, dependent on, is someone in a warehouse situation, is someone in an R&D laboratory, or is someone a Salesforce person that has to work in a car and make sure that is the best way possible for them.
Yeah, I love that two-pronged approach too, where you get everyone to have a baseline ergonomic or awareness safety training, and then you specialize into each of their individual roles too.
Yeah, so it can be really helpful. And then our big partners, which may or may not be available depending on how your company is set up. But if you do have an occupational health management team that's either in-house or maybe you utilize a service, really having them partner with you is really helpful to be aware of what's happening at your site level and to really have them help promote and kind of help with the control of ergonomics at your site.
Love it.
And then along with the coordinator, which is, like we mentioned, is formally nominated, they're responsible for the program. Then as part of that, we know nothing works well if it's just one person. So we
Hmm.
really stress that the sites then have an ergonomic committee,
Yeah.
and that
Oh,
committee then helps.
yeah. And I was wondering who was involved in that team and how do you, yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about this committee?
Yeah, sure. So depending on the site, but many of the sites we have a similar setup where you'll have the ergonomic committee that also includes your HSC, some HSC team members. It can be a subset of your HSC committee, maybe, definitely including your occupational health team. Wanting to make sure we have different groups uh, based on the type of operations that you have. So, representatives that maybe are ergonomic ambassadors, have an interest in ergonomics within your uh, different teams that you have at your locations, and also HR, so you can really filter in your other wellness programs. They really fit nicely also with helping with ergonomics. So we really kind of stress also if there is an opportunity to do that.
And what are some good examples of like an interdepartmental kind of solution that came up that you wouldn't have normally come up with if it was just one siloed team?
Yeah, so I think one good example is we had programs around ergonomics, and we really saw a connection with wellness where
Mm.
we then had things in place where we could improve people's balance, which doesn't always maybe at first seem like something that can improve your ergonomics, but balance really does help us a lot, and making sure you understand your body mechanics when you're doing other things like lifting or things like that. So it was kind of a nice thing where we saw there was a good synergy there.
Oh, I love that. And I know balance is not something we usually learn in like the ergonomics realm. So to have the wellness team come up with the idea is really great. And there's a huge overlap for that. So love to hear it.
Yeah, great. And then some other last key points of the programs. And really, we are applying the hierarchy of controls, which is, essential part of just most of our occupational hygiene programs, but really important to remember and to work with your team on first really looking, is there an opportunity for eliminating some of the task parts or eliminating the way we're doing a task? Maybe a potential substitution could be made, and really trying to make sure we don't skip that. Sometimes people can skip that first one and just go right into a solution of how you're exactly doing it right now. But it's always good to really ask the team, have you thought of any other ways, or have you seen this done before? What part do you think isn't so efficient? And there's quite a few times there is a way to eliminate some of this ergonomic risk just by maybe reorganizing the way you're doing the work.
Mm.
And then, of course, looking at engineering controls first. We know when we have to focus on human behavior, sometimes that's hard. None of us do the same thing every time the same way. So ergonomic controls really help us ensure that we're doing the task in an easier way where it's not just based on our behavior. And
Mhm.
then work practice controls and administrative controls. So is there a way where there's job rotation, or is there a way where you can have other administrative controls where you can also reduce and eliminate the ergonomics hazard as much as possible?
Yeah, I
And
love
that's the
that.
thing. Oh, go ahead, Jenny.
Oh no, I was just saying that that all makes sense, and I'm glad that you mentioned the hierarchy of controls because it really we can visualize what we can do first, right, before we jump to the nitty gritty. And and really gives us a different pathway of addressing these issues. And it's not just one specific way. I really love the elimination and substitution emphasis as well, because that often gets overlooked. And we just jump right into like a personal solution where maybe it could be more of an organizational or more productive solution to first look at elimination or substitution.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's really good. I think one example we had too was sometimes we're managing things in a warehouse. They come sometimes maybe boxed in several different boxes. And sometimes we can work and say, oh, you know what? Actually, we only need one box inside that outer box. And then it really does eliminate some parts of those activities that can really be an ergonomic risk. So sometimes we can't go all the way down to complete low risk at all times, but our goal is to at least reduce it as much as possible and to help with the overall awareness of
Mm,
the workers, to be aware of what are they doing and how they can help for their own health too as they do their work.
definitely.
Um, and then we also, make sure that people are really looking at that work site analysis or job task analysis, and looking at the different jobs you have, either with site trained people. A lot of times we have brought in ergonomic consultants to also perform evaluations, depending on what type of resources we have directly at the sites. Um, and that's really helpful. And then we go into more specific assessments as needed, but that can help you with your prioritization is,
Mm,
if you do all the general tasks in an area, then you can maybe highlight kind of your top ones initially and work from there. And it's also
yeah.
important that once you do that, that's great. You have your baseline, you know where to work to. But then as you work through your program, just be aware that once you do that, then there's other times where assessments need to be completed again, which is new operations with ergonomic risk potentials. We always want to be included in health and safety in new, you know, um, engineering projects, new changes, but not always the case sometimes. So we might go into an area and all of a sudden realize like, oh, there's been this nice change, but have we really looked at the ergonomic risks? So um, definitely a time where we want to reevaluate or even just operational changes, maybe where they have the people positioned on the line or what types of jobs they do have been combined. And now we have to relook at it. Also just direct feedback from your employees and workers. Hopefully there's a way that you have a program where people can speak up, feel confident to be able to provide information, concerns, or just, hey, I think this is a great one that we could review in my group. Maybe there hasn't been any, major incidents here or anything, but people are curious and want to be more aware of the ergonomics.
Yeah,
Um,
that participatory approach is really great, like participatory ergonomics in general. So I'm really glad that you have that as a component, and it's great to hear. And I also just wanted to say how realistic it is for people to not inform HSE of changes. So that I'm glad you brought that up too, because I'm sure many people here listening would agree that that's probably happened to them at some point. So it's
yeah.
important to make sure you're on top of that and get feedback from the people on the ground too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, just kind of being aware of what's truly happening is good. And part of
Mm,
that is kind of doing those walkthroughs, inspections, audits, different ways that you kind of look at HSC and ergonomics at your work sites, and just then identify areas even from you, and just having different people's eyes out there can
mhm,
really help, because the things we see might be different. Other people might come in and see something in a totally different way and can help us with that. So I think that's really important too, that when management is walking through, having them realize that ergonomics is another thing to look at. I know sometimes they focus on, maybe things they feel are easy, like, PPE is being used or not, or, those kind of things, are guards up, that kind of thing. And, just making sure they feel confident that they can also look at things from an ergonomic view.
mm, I love that.
And then, of course, looking at your injury data, your near miss data is always important. And then, as we talked about before, really thinking through the types of training you might have. And then also based on that, kind of how you do your record retention. Do you do training like every 3 years for office employees if it's lower risk, or for some of your other employees, maybe you do it more often? Kind of
Mm.
having a plan of, when do you kind of roll out those different trainings is important.
Thinking about that and planning in advance is really helpful too. So you're not just flying by the seat of your pants and being like, do we need a training? And just having that pre-planned and a regular cadence. Yeah, that's a really good idea.
Yeah, perfect. And then we'll go in as part of this. We also provided an ergonomics toolbox for people. So I'll show you kind of what's in there, where we kind of put together all the different assessment and evaluation tools for people so they don't have to go searching themselves and try to determine what are the types of assessments they could be doing.
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
Great. So here's a little snapshot of like what's in our tool. So essentially when people go in, they can see kind of that first line of let's review, get an overall assessment of maybe the general job tasks that are happening in an area. So the qualitative assessments. So they could use like an OSHA screening tool or something like that. We also in-house have made very similar to others, using what's out there to make our own computer workstation checklist for people for our office work, office work that people are doing. And then we also put together as a team a laboratory checklist. So that's really highlighting some of those things that are very unique to a laboratory environment for us. So people that are working out of a biosafety cabinet for their activities, what's the risk there? Maybe people are using the microscope and that has a different standpoint, or maybe they're still pipetting quite a bit for their job tasks. So that's kind of highlighted in a different way that we can use within our laboratory spaces.
Yeah, particularly for Sanofi, it's really important to be able to have that separate laboratory checklist too. And within
Yeah.
the laboratory, all those different job tasks.
Yeah, it's definitely been helpful for us for sure. And then the more quantitative assessments, which in the past, that's when a lot of sites would reach out to consultants to handle, where we would then go in to those that show that there was a higher risk potential and do the RULA or utilize the NIOSH lifting guide for lifting types of techniques, or pushing and pulling with the snook tables, that kind of thing. And the thing we found with utilizing the TuMeke tool now for a little over a year or so is we can do this with the video technology, which is great. And it really eliminates the need to scheduling consultants, getting them in and get to see that actual activity going when you have them on site is sometimes challenging. So when you can kind of tell a team, hey, when you're doing that next, take a quick 1 to 2 minute video for us. We can do a review and assessment. And the other really great thing is being able to do multiple assessments off the one video, because a lot of times you might want to be doing a RULA along with a lifting, NIOSH lifting. So it's really nice where you can capture that all at one time. And it gives us a good bit of flexibility compared to trying to schedule very dedicated times to do ergonomics.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And I think also bringing it in-house so you have people on the ground using the tool now instead of having to wait for a consultant to come at a specific time is that it's a lot more in real time. People can identify other tasks to evaluate, and they're just more in the know with everyday goings-ons at Sanofi. So yeah, I think I'm glad to hear that it's been working out.
Yeah, definitely. It's been really a great interaction. And people really get into it. They watch the videos. They automatically see things that they know maybe they want to do better, or they see like, oh, doing this way really is the best way. Now I can see it. And it's very visual, very easy. So we've gotten really good feedback from our sites. And just as kind of a roundabout before we get to kind of the second part, just to cover the key points that we've covered already. Within the ergonomics program, we really focus on ensuring that they have a written program with all the elements we talked about. Having a coordinator in that team is important so that you have everyone involved. Ergonomic tools, so what different assessments they can do, how can we evaluate your risk. And then we've also implemented a roadmap so we can have a more harmonized approach. So when I was looking at ergonomics, there's a lot of elements in ergonomics as a large global company that we are. Some sites are in different positions than others of where they've had ergonomic program improvements compared to others. And so I kind of went through and said, okay, let's focus in very similar ways. So that also helps us with our sharing of best practices, which we'll cover at the end. So I kind of just shared my roadmap a little bit on this page here. But as you can see, we kind of really ask people to look at material handling, repetitive motion, bending and twisting tasks. So we really said, okay, focus on those first. If you can't evaluate every job task of a group, of your building, of your site, really look at those that you think are potential high risks. And then let's each help each other with good solutions that we can come back to, or our project teams can be helped out, that kind of thing. So I think it's helped us where we can kind of have a focus, and make sure that it's not, different people are really taking on different aspects all the different times, which can be
Mhm.
challenging to then be able to kind of put together as a global kind of sharing.
And I think this graphic is so nice to have too, because it really represents the different steps you can take so everyone's all on the same page. And for those listening too, I'm sure yours will look a little different, but I love that you shared your version of it and what that looks like at Sanofi. So yeah.
Here's one thing that we've implemented in the last few years was a challenge we always have, right? Everyone has a huge to-do list every day. We never get through that, I'm sure. And I think the part where people say, oh, can you share your best practices or improvements? Always kind of fall to the end because it's not compliance related. It's not kind of, the thing you have to do. So we
Mm,
tried to figure out, can we work together on a solution that's very easy, gives us good information, but not hard to fill out, and can allow us to easily share among the groups and during different types of meetings that we hold. So this is one of the things we came up with. I'm sure lots of other people have come up with other things too, but we really wanted it to be quick, easy, but also you to have a contact so you can reach out to that person later and say, oh, hey, oh, Joe, I saw that you just did this at your site. Tell me a little bit more about it.
mm,
And so we kind of asked them, do a description. What kind of tool did you use to figure this out? Which is also helpful for people as they're starting with their programs. And then more around the solution side in the green. So what is it that you put in place? What are the overall benefits? So they could share that with their teams too, if they need their management to kind of agree. And then the information on the supplier or the vendor, or, who did the training for you or anything like that. And then what is the general cost? So people either know like, oh, it could really work for me, or our risk is not that high. And this kind of would be cost prohibitive for us.
I really like how simple the layout is, but also information packed, right? It has a way for you to contact, understand who wrote this and how you can follow up. And then you have the issue and then the solution on one side and the other. So that's super cool. Curious how you, what format, like what do you use to lay this out and share? Like, do you use Word or is it something else?
Yeah, so we decided on as going back and forth and really utilizing a lot of, because we use a lot of team spaces and things like that, we
Mhm.
decided to make this as a PowerPoint slides because we also wanted people to be able to share it during their HSE committees, during their safety moments. And it seemed like the best way that people felt like, oh, I don't have to do a lot of rearranging myself. I can kind of get this information easily and kind of pass it on while I do these presentations. So that kind of worked best for us.
Oh, that's genius. Yeah, I love that because it's easy to format. Like you have the drag and drop, which is so much harder to do if you try to work on Excel or just Word documents, for example. And then, like you said, that shareable aspect of it, especially if you have teams. And I know a lot of our clients here have teams. So
Yeah, perfect. And then the second part of this, I'll just go through. It is meant to really show people the item, or more information about it, just so they get a clearer picture. So if their management says, oh, what exactly is a cobot, or what exactly is this training you're talking about, that they can put a little bit more info in it and give people kind of an idea about that. And then
yeah.
next, I kind of wanted to show how we're using TuMeke for things. So it's great that they have the report already built in where you can have that information kind of put in a nice report. And then sometimes we'll take that information snippets, put it together also in a PowerPoint. And this one I just thought was good because sometimes you don't need a huge engineering, design, redesign to make big differences in your process. Here we really just did some proposed changes along with the workers saying, maybe rotate your box differently. We're going to remind people the proper way of taping boxes. That really does reduce your risk. And so it's just a good reminder that it doesn't have to be like some major cost initiative that you have to do to be able to reduce your risk over time.
Yeah, and that's a great one too. Just, the idea of just retaping the boxes, like yeah, coming up with some kind of behavioral way that can be done differently, that's actually going to make a big difference. And that's where the visual component comes in and showing them this is how it is. Here's what we're seeing as a risk factor. And maybe instead of investing in a huge, complicated new solution, it's just different taping techniques and trying that out and doing a before and after so you can compare.
Yeah, yeah. So it's really a great visual for people and really great because when they see things like this and they go, oh yeah, oh maybe, and they come up with great ideas too. And it's not just on, the ergonomic coordinator or that team, which I think is great. And then for my last slide, I just wanted to share a few more things that we had kind of put in place because I know it's always exciting to see what are people doing and look at different types of solutions. So the first one, we have many of these carts that we utilize all the time throughout our operations. And so we got these different kind of movers that
Mm.
help us instead of people actually have to physically pushing and pulling these, as you can imagine, is not great from an ergonomic standpoint. So that was really good because it's an activity that they do all the time. So having a major, investment for that is great. We also have times where people were kind of pushing these little boxes kind of things in the laboratory setting, pilot setting. And as you can see here, not great, right? It's very low. So talking about it, we could have come up with this like amazing new, moving dolly kind of mobile thing if we needed. But the team working with them, they said, oh, we could probably just put a T handle on this and easily utilize what we already have and make a minor adjustment and it being reduce our risk by, a high percentage. So here was, I thought, another great example where it's fairly easy to achieve, doesn't stop your operations, and
Mm.
nice to be able to do.
And that's key.
Yeah, yeah,
A lot of
exactly.
preparation.
Yeah,
Sometimes we can't just have all the time in the world and the budget to come up with something really fancy, but it's
yeah,
about kind of
yeah.
being creative and thinking simple sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And sometimes it's really nice because if you have to go through like things like change control and other things like that, it could take very long time. Whereas some of these simple fixes wouldn't take that long. And maybe you have a phase two where you have something else. But then I thought another great thing that one of our teams did, they, are handling drums from time to time as part of their processes. And they, as you can see, different types of drum types we get. And they really decided like, oh, these drums, we don't have a great way of how we're handling them and transferring them. Is there a way? So they worked directly with the manufacturer to say, is there a different way that you could help us to be able to do this? So they found a different faucet. And so it comes free with this faucet each time now. And I just thought it was ingenious, right? Because you could have set up a whole different way of working potentially with your drums. This is not something you do all the time. So this works out great. And I thought just another innovative way that people have really thought about ergonomics and not making it too complicated to have coming up with a really great way to reduce your ergonomic risk.
And great message there is reach out to your manufacturers. You never know. Sometimes they might have some solutions for you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. So that's the end of my presentation of what I have to share today.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you. That was really helpful, Mary. And I hope that everyone here was able to kind of get a general idea of just some real world examples of how to not have to have an overly complicated relationship with ergonomics programs. I know it can be complicated, but there are really good ways for you to simplify, right? And just prioritize, get down to the essential, and still have a big impact without anything that's very again, overly complicated, budget heavy. And it's all just about, it seems like, having a written program, and then also at gathering a team, and then also find ways to address, like, have a roadmap, have different tools in the toolbox, and it's all streamlined together, and then be able to find ways to communicate with your team too and share ideas. So these are really insightful, and I learned a lot too. I want to have a little bit of time to share our Q&A. Sorry, I know we're running a little over, so for those of you who can stay, please do, or otherwise we have a recording. But I'll just go through the Q&A here. Nicole asks, do you have a recommendation on how often shifting positions would happen?
So if you do some job rotation, I think is what this is referring to. So I think it really somewhat matters about how high risk the activity is that you're trying to reduce through your job rotation. So say you have like a medium risk, maybe the job rotation is just twice a day, right? Maybe you have a morning shift and an afternoon shift and you switch people that way. If you have something very high risk, there are times where it makes more sense where you maybe are switching people out every 45 minutes, giving breaks. So it really depends on that overall risk and what the
Mhm.
risk is. That could really make a difference. And there are some things that can help you with that, but hopefully that gave you at least a little opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Marius, I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong, said, hello, Mary and Jenny. Do you expect any new or improved slash adjusted ergonomics evaluation tools and methods that would support ergo assessments, REBA rule, et cetera? Do you see a chance for AI and AR implementation to the risk assessment and mitigation process? I would say I can jump into for this.
Sure.
I would say I think yeah, this is what TuMeke is we have like we integrate AI and computer vision and machine learning to these existing ergonomic assessments like REBA, RULA, NIOSH, RSI, and Snook. And we're excited to roll out more in the future too, for sure. We're always listening to our customers, and we're also potentially looking into more custom builds in the future, but just really taking the same, not reinventing the wheel, right? Taking the same sort of risk factors that we have, that we observe, and then being able to more easily evaluate it through AI and computer vision. And I believe I'm excited for the AI to also have more of a predictive analytic in the future too, which it already does have, but to sort of prioritize in the future. Somebody asked if we can email the graphics out. So basically, we're not going to share the slides directly, but we will have a recording of this. So feel free to reference the recording if you need anything in particular. Thank you. Same with that. So copy of the slides. Valerie asks, from your experience, were you able to reduce risks to low or reducing to medium? Wait, hold on. Were you able to reduce risk to low or was reducing to medium an acceptable risk for certain tasks?
Mm. Yeah, we're always really trying to focus on getting it to that low. And so, but as we know, sometimes there's ones that just due to the nature of the job, maybe can only really get to that medium. And that's when we also would implement more administrative controls along with things. So sometimes it's really hard to get to that low. Or you have to have a long-term strategy with your management to say, okay, we really have to kind of rework the way we're doing this job, but that might take 2 years to get implemented. So yes, there are times where medium is as good as you're going to get for how it's set up currently, and then you have to kind of have a longer strategy. So love to see everything low, but it's really just not what I've seen happen when you have many job tasks to review.
And thank you for being realistic about that too, right? Like in real life practice, sometimes it is just going to be medium just due to the nature of it. And I love that you said you bring in other components beyond just what you can see and observe through the ergonomics lens, but then the other administrative controls that can help support that. Thank you. Nathan asks, any specific solutions that can be tailored to high risk public service jobs? Firefighter or police? I mean,
Yeah, that's really great, right? Because then you're at a you're doing your job in a space where it's not built for you, right? You're going to a new location. You don't get to make it fit you as the employee. So yeah, that's really interesting. I think I know I can't think of anything in particular, although I do know like for firefighting, because just pulling all those hoses are really heavy and that kind of stuff. So I think there is great opportunity to see if there's solutions that can make some of those components much easier over time, which I think I have seen some things over time kind of make those jobs a good bit easier. But I think that's the hard part. I think the thing there would really be to have a strong awareness program for the workers so they're aware of where are those high risk potentials for my job, what can I do, and then to really have a really great reporting system so
mm.
that those teams could really talk about it as a group. Because like I said, some of those might not ever get to low for a public service job, just because we can't install things. But just with an awareness could help us.
That's a great answer. And it also goes to show how some of your best practices, even in Sanofi, which is not, firefighting or police, can also apply. You can take those certain components like the training and the awareness, maybe even having like an Ergo 101, and then still and having that employee reporting technique, component as well, so that you can hear what's going on and continue to observe. So yeah, really
I
well.
think the other thing is how do you utilize like your training? Because there's lots of training that happen, right? Constantly getting trainings. How can you implement ergonomics and ergonomic assessments in the types of training that you're doing? Because then you can kind of preemptively maybe implement ergonomics better going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't understate training for sure. All right, and we have another question, but it just says, I'm not sure if it was accidentally typed because it just says in terms of ergonomics. So sorry, feel free to um, rewrite your question, but that is the last one that we have. So thank you so much. Thank you all. Thank you, Mary, for staying over. Thank you all who's still here for staying a little over as well. Really great answers, Mary, and really amazing presentation, and so much to learn from this and think about. So thank you again. So wonderful having you. And yeah, I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was really a joy to do this together. So thank you for the opportunity. And yeah, always great to kind of hear different ideas from different people. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for contributing. All right, have a great one.
All right, thank you. Bye.